Why do some builders pot their pickups in wax and others avoid it at all costs? This might be one of the most debated subjects in pickup making, or maybe even in guitar building as a whole. Whether you're a pro or con, today we will show you our preferred method of wax potting. And we'll answer the big question, should you be potting your pickup? Hey everyone, I'm Steven from Nebula Guitar Parts, where we make pickup building less mysterious, more accessible and easier to understand. Today, we will be diving into a much debated topic, pickup potting. In this video, I'll walk you through the supplies you need, the proper techniques to use, and we will be potting a Stratocaster bobbin, a humbucker bobbin, and a completed covered humbucker. Let's get started. Without potting, coil wires can vibrate and act like microphones, producing something called microphonics. Wax potting stabilizes everything, kills squeal, and makes the pickup more stable. So firstly, you will need a dedicated thermometer. Most of these wax heaters, they have a built-in thermostat, but you can't always trust that. So to be sure that you don't overheat your wax, I would really recommend using a dedicated separate thermometer. Then we have a cooling tray to let your pickups or your bobbins cool afterwards, a silicone mat to protect your work surface, some Kapton tape, we will talk more about that later. Of course, the wax heater, don't worry, these aren't actually pink on the inside. And of course, you will need some potting wax. This is our 80-20 blend. If you're interested to see how we make these, we have a dedicated video on those that we will link on the video and in the description. If you're interested in any of these supplies, we will be linking to those in the description as well. And we will also put up an entire essential waxing kit on the website and in the description below. So let's get it all set up now. Before I add the wax, here's a trick I recommend. I always drop a piece of cardboard at the bottom of the pot. The healing element sits directly underneath, and if a bobbin touches the bare bottom, it can warp. The cardboard creates a buffer, so the pickup never sits directly on the hot metal. You can either add the piece of cardboard in after the wax is melted or before. I choose to do it before, so that I'm sure not to forget it. Do keep in mind that by putting the piece of cardboard down first, it'll take a little bit longer to melt. What we're adding now is our 80-20 mix, 80% paraffin and 20% beeswax. Paraffin penetrates quickly and beeswax adds flexibility. I recommend keeping the wax between 60 to 65 degrees Celsius or between 140 and 150 Fahrenheit. If the concentration of beeswax is higher, you might need to bump up the heat to the low 80s or low 170s. Each time you add a pickup, the wax temperature will drop, so make sure it stabilizes again before lowering in the next one. If the wax is too hot, it can damage internal parts of the pickup, and if it's too cold, it won't flow deeply into the bobbin. It is important to note that wax is flammable if overheated. Normally, if you don't leave it unattended, there isn't much risk. Since the flash point of paraffin is around 200 degrees Celsius or 400 degrees Fahrenheit, you'll be working well below that. Still, it's good to be aware of this. While the wax heats, you could prepare your bobbins. I did the preparation for taping my bobbins off camera. Because there are a lot of different tapes and reasons to use them, I decided to dedicate a separate video on it. Normally, I would secure a Strat coil with a quick wrap of cloth tape before potting. Let's start with a Strat bobbin. Since the hookup wires on a Stratocaster style bobbin are secured to the eyelets with a strong solder joint, we can comfortably move them around by holding to it. In this example, I left it untaped so you can see the copper coil clearly on camera. If you're doing this at home, definitely tape it first. It prevents the outer windings from shifting when you install your potted pickup into your guitar. Lowering it into the wax carefully, watch the bubbles rise, and once the bubbles fully stop, you know the coil is saturated. I always like to move or tilt the bobbin under the wax to make sure there are no air pockets. After there are no more air bubbles, we lift it out of the wax and we put it on a cooling tray. To lower the bobbin in and out of the wax, I've bent some normal steel wire. It makes it easier to lift, lower and tilt the bobbin in the wax. Now that we're onto the humbucker bobbin, it's time to talk about the double dipping method. If you're not going to cover a humbucker, it's totally fine to put it fully assembled, just like you would a traditional Strat-style bobbin. But if you're going for a covered option, I'd recommend potting your bobbins first, then assembling the rest of the pickup and potting it again. If you pot a fully assembled cover bobbin in one go, you have large amounts of air trying to escape that could become trapped under the cover, not fully saturating the cavity under the cover with wax. The tape might come loose as the adhesive isn't heat resistant, but if that happens, you can use some tweezers to put it back in its place. The wax will solidify and keep it in place when dried. We again wait until the bubbles stopped, and then we let it cure on the dripping tray. Now, as a final example, a covered humbucker. Since I already potted the bobbins, this second bath is about making sure the cover is sealed and no air is trapped inside. What I do to prepare the pickup is seal the back with Kapton tape as well as the front. We'll be manipulating the pickup and we don't want there to be any scratches on the cover. We also don't want wax to drip out of the screw holes. I've again bent these two pieces of steel wire to grab the base plate by the mounting holes to lower and lift the pickup as straight as possible. The most common mistake that is made is when lifting the pickup out. You want to lift it out as straight as possible to avoid any wax spilling out. Any movement can make wax spill out, and this prevents that. Again, waiting for the bubbles to stop and onto the cooling tray it goes. Around 20 to 30 minutes, the wax will have hardened, and after a couple of hours it will be completely solid. Usually, we would pot our pickups at the end of the day so they can cure overnight. After potting, there's usually some wax residue. Here are some safe ways to clean it. If needed, warm the wax slightly with a hairdryer on low heat to re-soften it. Then, using a lightly dampened microfiber cloth or swab with isopropyl alcohol, the 70 to 90% kind, gently wipe the excess off. It evaporates cleanly and is safer for plastics than mineral spirits. For humbucker covers, carefully remove the Kapton tape, and around the pole pieces or tight areas, we recommend using a wooden toothpick or cotton swab. In this video, you'll see me using tweezers and a screwdriver. Those work too if you're confident. Or in my case, they were simply the only tools I had at the time. Just be mindful that these can scratch the cover, so be extra careful if you find yourself in the same situation. Finish by buffing with a clean guitar polish cloth for a professional look. Thank you for watching our complete rundown on waxing pickups. Like everything, there are multiple ways to do it, but this is the way that we do it. So now to answer the really big question, should you be wax potting your pickups or not? Well, like everything, it really comes down to personal preference and how the pickup will be used. Will it be used in a high gain setting? Will it be used live? Will you be touring along? Then, in my opinion, it's always better to be safe and to wax pot your pickups. It removes all the microphonics and makes your guitar that much more predictable, which is really important when playing live. On the other hand, if you're chasing that fragile vintage tone, the one that comes with a little bit of microphonic edge, then leaving the pickups unpotted might be the right choice for you. In the end, it all comes down to taste, personal choice, and your playing style. If you found this helpful, hit that like button, subscribe for more pickup related content, and let us know in the comments what you would like us to cover next. Thank you for watching and see you in the next one.